7th grade history, chapter 3, section 2, Egypt's Great River. The Nile River and its gifts, an oasis in the desert. The Nile River, the longest river in the world and one of the few that flows south to north, made ancient Egypt an oasis in a desert. Every year in June, the Nile began to rise and flood the valley. The water level peaked in the middle of September, and the floodwaters began to recede. By December, the life-giving waters had returned to their normal channels, leaving behind more than 10,000 square miles of cultivable soil. And approximately 650-mile strip of rich and moist soil, 2 to 30 miles wide, began in the south and stretched northward. For the last 100 miles or so of its course through Egypt toward the Mediterranean Sea, the Nile fanned out into many streams to form the Delta region, named for its resemblance to the Greek letter delta. The strip, and especially the delta, was one of the most fertile areas in the world, more so than even Mesopotamia, where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers made what was otherwise a desert into part of the Fertile Crescent. Irrigation, canals, dikes, and reservoirs played an important role in Egypt, just as in Mesopotamia. But rather than redirect the Nile, the Egyptians simply adapted to its natural flow cycle. They saw the Nile as more of a friend than a foe, and eagerly received the gifts it brought to Egypt each year. Herodotus, in fact, called Egypt the gift of the Nile. The gifts of the Nile. The greatest gift of the Nile to Egypt was the fertile soil it left behind. Agriculture provided a solid foundation for great wealth in Egypt, making the land a breadbasket for the ancient world. Even when the Nile failed to follow its cycle during the time of Joseph, the Egyptians had stored enough grain to carry them through the 7-year famine. The Nile also provided transportation for trade and communication. Boats could move northward with the current and return south by raising sails to catch the winds that almost always blew out of the north. The Nile was a plentiful source for building materials. From the papyrus plants that grew along the riverbanks, the Egyptians made boats, baskets, boxes, mats, sandals, and furniture, as well as paper. They used mud from the Nile to make bricks, with which they built dwellings ranging from huts to palaces. The valley through which the Nile flowed was surrounded by natural barriers to foreign invasion. Desert sands lay to the east, west, and south. Rapids, called cataracts, in the south prevented the Nile from being used to invade Egypt. Invaders could come into the north from the Mediterranean Sea, but this area was easy to defend. The only real weaknesses were to the northeast from the direction of Canaan.